Yes, Ruby ma'am.
Good afternoon. Once again, good afternoon, and once again, welcome. I welcome you all to the third session of this 1 week long EFDP. For this session, we have here with us Dr. Ketan Patel, Assistant Professor, College of Pharmacy and Health Science, St. John's University, New York, USA. He will be delivering a session on role of 3D printing in pharmaceutical product development. Before we proceed with this session, let me give a brief introduction of him. He holds a PhD in pharmaceutics from the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai, India. The main focus of his research group at St. John's University is to develop a translational drug delivery system for improving the efficacy and patient compliance. Dr. Patel has authored.
Ruby ma'am, mute. You're mute.
Apologies. Once again, I welcome you all to this third session of the day. For this session, we have here with us Dr. Ketan Patel, Assistant Professor, College of Pharmacy and Health Science, St. John's University, New York, USA. He will be delivering a session on role of 3D printing in pharmaceutical product development. Introducing him, he holds a PhD in pharmaceutics from the Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai, India. Major focus of his research group at St. John's University is to develop a translational drug delivery system for improving the efficacy and patient compliance. Dr. Patel has authored more than 50 research publications in prestigious peer-reviewed journals in the areas of pharmaceutics, 3D printing, abuse-deterrent formulation, pre-exposure prophylaxis of HIV, investigation novel class of anti-cancer molecules, and development of tumor-targeted nanoparticles. He has 5 US patents on innovative formulation technology. Dr. Patel has received a Melanoma Research Scholar Award from Outrun the Sun and a National Institute of Health grant for his research in development of nanomedicine for proteolysis targeting chimera PROTAC for the treatment of metastatic melanoma. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, sir, and I request you, sir, to please take over this session.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and again, thank you so much for inviting me to deliver a talk on this 3D printing technology. I hope it will be helpful to you guys. I'm not sure Dr. Gandhi is here or...
No, ma'am is busy with some meetings, so she's not here.
Yeah, something is missing in the introduction that I would like to emphasize on that. I did my B.Pharm from Anand Pharmacy College, Anand, and then Bombay College of Pharmacy for the masters, and then UDCT. Anyway, so I'll share my screen.
Sir, it is already shared.
Yes, sir.
It is already. Yes. Sir, you will just go on the first slide. Yes, sir. Yes, role of 3D printing in pharmaceuticals. Yes.
Sorry if you see something weird on the slides. This is the last moment preparation, so forgive me if there is a mistake or something. So role of 3D printing in pharmaceuticals, I would kindly request to mute your mic so everyone can hear it clear. So I'll be discussing on different kinds of 3D printing, 3D printer that we use it here, and then the advantages, disadvantages of each all the printers, as well as how we can use it. We have some video as well. Dr. Thakkar requested us to shoot a video demonstrating 3D printing of FDM 3D printing. So we made like almost 15-20 minutes video that I will share at the end of this presentation. So that will be like a live demo. We printed a tablet today itself. So this is the perfect theme, and I'm very interested. When I saw the theme, I was really very interested to present, because we are clearly lacking in many areas, in especially pharmaceutical manufacturing. We really need innovation, and even FDA push for it. So as FDA director says, I think there are lots of articles coming from FDA to promote the continuous manufacturing over batch manufacturing, and so there are some terminology like advanced manufacturing or something. So several industries such as chemical or petrochemical, automobile, have significantly undergone a revolution from where they began, like in this decade. Their manufacturing lineup, the food, the product filling, even some of the examples they made in the regular soap manufacturing industry or the food manufacturing industry, they are using much more high-tech machines and much more high-tech ways to analyze their product rather than a pharmaceutical product. Though we are tightly regulated market, but the revolution or the use of technology is still not there, and we are still stuck with the old capsule and tablet and injections and everything and suppository. Trust me, we are as you all are faculty and as we know, we are still teaching those old stuff, suppositories and ointment and all that, and still there is no moving forward from there. So with that, I would say I just share some of this picture, starting from the aeroplane to computer to the first bulb. Almost in a decade, there is a huge shift in those fields, starting from, let's say, Mangalyaan, or we have the laptop, which is much smaller than the first computer, the folded mobile now, Alexa control everything in the house. So there are so much of development in all the field. But if you see the tableting, 100 years before it was a compression based. Right now it is, yes, it is, the machines are much more faster and highly productive, but at the same time, it's still a 100-year-old technology. If you talk about the insulin, it was discovered in 1912. Since then, they found out no oral bioavailability. After 100 years, in 2015, they made it pulmonary, like Afrezza was launched in 2015. But other than that, I think it's still a painful injection in majority of the case. So at many area of pharmaceutical manufacturing is really did not adopted a new way of manufacturing it. And that's why recently in last 10 years, there is a huge push from the FDA to modernize the way we are manufacturing things. And that's why I just used two of the example that they call it advanced manufacturing, that to use some new technology or to use an established technology in a new way. So basically improve the quality, we can address some shortage of medicine, and that's where 3D printing comes in a picture, where it can really helpful in shortage of medicine and speed time to the market. As we know, it takes like $1 billion investment as well as 10 years to bring a molecule into the market. So somewhere a technology can be very helpful to bring it into the market. In animals, as we all are doing preclinical studies, so we do some study in animal, we go back, we run phase 1 trial, it fails, we go back, we run the animal, start from the mice, rat, dog, monkey, and human again. So it consumes lots of time, and as a result, we are investing lots of time in bringing the product compared to all other industry. You think of something new, and within 1 or 2 months, any other industry can bring the product into the market, which is not possible in our case, because we have to see the safety first, as that's what the problem with the COVID vaccine as well, that some of the companies' vaccine were stuck with the poor safety and their efficacy. So that's where I think even 1 year of COVID, we are still struggling to bring vaccine and new medicine in the market, though remdesivir just approved. So the content, I'll not go more detail into each of the article because it will consume lots of time. And within 45 minutes, I will just touch upon in general about 3D printing, the types of 3D printer, the advantage in between. I'll talk about the application. We mostly work on FDM 3D printing process because, again, everyone has their own understanding with it and own belief. So we believe that FDM 3D printing will have some way moving forward, and we have a full setup to do FDM 3D printing, future perspective, how it's going to move forward, and some of the regulatory concerns, because this is something not going on since long time. It is really, let's say, 10 years, last 10 years, that's where number of papers and everything has been really up. Lots of researchers are working on it since, and in last 5 years there is a huge surge in number of papers, to be very honest. So what is 3D printing? It is essentially, it's just a 2D printing. Let's say you print a paper in 2-dimensional. What 3D printer does is it print in 2-dimensional, but it print multiple time on the same page, and as a result, layer by layer, you got one layer, it's 2D, one more layer, third layer, fourth layer, fifth layer, sixth layer, and that's how it built up and it formed a 3D object. So basically the principles in a simple language are the same. One, it's just 2-dimensional printing, the paper comes out and that's it. 3D printer keeps that paper and just keep on printing till your object is of desired X, Y, and Z. So we have length and width. In here, you add one more dimension, that is height. So that basically your 3D object, that's what you are printing. So with that, I'll just continue. There are different kind of 3D printers. So earlier in 1980s, that's where this technology were under development, or they were looking for some of the opportunities. So in biomedical engineering, or to print the organ, like say recently last year we have some organ printed with the eye or nose, ear, heart. So that field is completely separate, the bioengineering part. Over here we mostly focus on let's say SLA or FDM 3D printing. Inkjet 3D printing is one of the area. So in 1980s to 1990, these technologies were developed, but it takes lots of time for pharma to adopt it, because what we are more concerned is the production scale as well as the safety for the patient. And then with the FDA, it's stringent requirement comes in between, let's say USP, drug purity, impurity, and all that, the shelf life. So many things comes in between, which is not there for the other product. So as we move forward in 2000, some implants were developed. Kidney, as we say, the biomedical is completely separate field. That's where the 3D printing is going very well. Prosthetics and everything, the medical device. There are some papers in early 2010 of FDM 3D printer, bilayer tablet, polypills, the 5 to 6 drug in just one tablet, you can print it. So all this thing came, let's say, early after 2010, 2014, 15, and then we see a lots of publications after 2010 on FDM based 3D printing or SLS based 3D printing. The first breakthrough was 2015 when Spretum was approved, which is the very first commercial 3D printed tablet, and it is a different technology, and I will come to that technology later when I will discuss the individual technology. So again, this is what our field, that it takes lots of time for us. We think of some technology and then it comes to the market. It's a huge gap. Maybe after COVID, the scenario may be different, because now everything is going much faster than we thought, especially in case of drug approval and in case of formulation development. But the liposome, the concept was somewhere thought and came into an existence in somewhere in 1950s. But the first liposome we talk, like Doxil or Ambisomes, amphotericin B, they came into market in somewhere in over here in this range of 1995, 1994 to be precise, for the Doxil. So it's a huge gap, almost 50 years of gap. So that's what I think the academy, as an academic researcher, we do lots of work, we publish lots of data, and then somewhere an industry will consider it for technology to be commercialization. So in an industry simultaneously will work on some of the technology like Aprecia and some new companies which are actively involved in the 3D printing. But again, for us, it's a big investment. For if you develop a 3D printer, if you develop a 3D printed toy or automobile or something, for other industry, it might be quick sell. But if you develop something for pharmaceutical field, it's a long way to go, because again, FDA approval and everything comes in between, and not many company has financial backup to move forward with it. So 3D printed dosage form in general, as I said, stereolithography, that is SLA printer, selective laser sintering, is shown in the picture. This is fused deposition modeling, and this is called stereolithography. That's how the objects are printed. So based on that, either it's a powder. There are three basic components here. One, your drug, resin, and everything is in a liquid form. And as the object is built, it solidifies by using some laser or by photoinitiator. Powder solidification, aprecia or sputum, the FDA approved medicine, is nothing but the powder bed technology, where you have a powder bed and there is some selective laser melting, can give a shape to it, or drop on solid. Drop by drop, you add a binder in a way that it forms a particular shape, and then you can cut it out from the main powder bed. The third one is extrusion based, where you use a solid filament and you print like a plastic. So there are three different ways: liquid, which is nothing but stereolithography; solid, which is mostly selective laser sintering or drop on solid sputum technology, and extrusion base. That's what we are going to talk today. That's you have a HME based filament, and that's what you printed. This one usually is not quite conventional, and I'll tell you why it's not quite conventional and not quite feasible to make it. So first we'll talk about the fused deposition modeling 3D printers. So over here, as you can see in the picture, the built material, support material, and it's kind of a filament. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the hot melt extrusion. Later we have a video for that. So hot melt extrusion will give you a filament of 1.5 mm size, where the drug and polymers are loaded. So basically, you use that filament to print an object. So you melt the filament, you use around 180 degrees Celsius or 200 degrees Celsius. The solid filament turn into like a molten mass, and that you are printing it, and this is at the room temperature. So that's, I think in my video it is much more clear to you. Right now, no matter how much I talk, it won't be convincing unless until you have seen it. So the first step is hot melt extrusion. We take a drug, we take a polymer, which is pharmaceutical grade polymer, and a drug, plasticizer, everything. We pass it to the hot melt extrusion, and we feed it to the hot nozzle, so that, and we give some command. So in general, in 2D printer, let me correlate it with the 2D printer. Over here, we give a command that's A4 size paper or landscape or portrait, what you want to print it, the color, the font size and everything. Same way in 2D printing, we give a command that how big the object should be. And most importantly, for our tablet, we give a command. The inside of the tablet is what infill density and what infill pattern, and that makes a big difference in this technology, that you can not only control the surface of the tablet, but you can also control the composition of it, that from inside what kind of tablet do you want, and that inside construct will change the drug release and will change the overall drug loading. And we will see that in slides to come. Material basically is like a plastic. We pass through the heated nozzle, and that's how it printing. No post processing required, and I'll show you how. What is the concept behind this 3D printer? So the concept is at least in USA or many European countries, and in India, mostly the drugs are available as a unit dosage form. But in here, usually the prescriber prescribes some dose, and some sort of compounding is also involved in some of the dose customization. So desired dose and desired release profile, if the prescriber will in future will think that, okay, the desired dose. So we are moving forward to the individualization of the therapy that based on the genetic makeup. The classic example is zolpidem. When the zolpidem came into the market, the dose was 10 milligram. And then they found out that the women who are taking zolpidem, they're still feeling sleepy in the morning when they take a drive or something. And they found out the reason. After in the phase 4 trial, they found out that the enzyme which metabolize zolpidem is somewhere higher in the men, lower in the women. And as a result, the new dose of the zolpidem was just 5 milligram. It is a sleeping pill. So that's how, and there are many survey which says that as aspirin or many drug, people are taking it, but from half of the people, those drugs are not effective. They are just taking it because on a standard general population, the drug should work. But for those people, the drug is not working because the enzyme levels are different. And we are slowly moving towards personalized therapy. We see the genetic profile of a person, we see the enzyme level, and then we think, okay, 50 mg dose would be enough, 100 mg dose would be enough. For cancer, it is coming. I'll be very honest, this is not the main area of my lab research. My funding and everything comes from the cancer research, and that's where we are working on the targeted drug therapy, where we target only the exclusive enzyme which are overexpressed in the tumor, and that's how the therapy is all. We are moving forward with the more of a targeted EGFR and all those therapy rather than just focusing on chemotherapy. Just give one dose to everyone. So they will come that later. The second part is, so as soon as the pharmacist will come to know this is the dose and this is the release profile we need, it's already there is a tablet design is already in the computer, in the software. So the dimension, so the dose is related to the dimension. Bigger the 3D printed tablet, higher will be the dose, because your filament always carry. So the first step is hot melt extrusion, drug and polymer. You get the filament of a drug. From the filament, bigger the filament, more the amount of drug will be. So if you print more amount of material, higher will be the tablet weight and higher will be the dose. Smaller the tablet, lower will be the dose, because your drug loading is constant. We are loading 10%, 15%, 20% or something. And based on the release profile, it will choose a printing pattern, and how a printing pattern will change the drug release, that we will see in next couple of slides. That you don't need to change the composition. You just change the printing pattern, the infill density, and then you can alter the drug release. So that command comes to the MakerBot 3D printer or whatever the 3D printer you have. So a prescriber will suggest the dose and release profile. A pharmacist will give input like a print, and based on that, the machine will print, let's say 30 pill or 60 pill, and it will refill the prescription. So this is mostly, let's say 10 tablet or 20 tablets or something that you can print easily using this printer. And this is what I was talking about, the infill pattern. You have a diamond infill, you have hexagonal infill. These are the settings with the machine itself. So when you print it, even though you have ideal composition, dimension, they are of the same dimension, they take the same printing time, but the release profile will be different. The drug release profile will be different because the way they dissolve, it's different because of their internal structure. So this is what you can change. From outside, both the tablet will look alike. But from inside, the internal structures are different. And based on internal structure, the drug release will be different. And that's what it allows us to flexible with the drug release. Direct digital manufacturing, just in time for pharmacists. When they need it, just print it and hand it over to the patient. It's more of a personalized therapy. that will come to the later slide. An early drug development in early phase or phase 1 trial or for the animals, this is very effective technology where you just print it and provide the tablet to the phase 1 clinical trial. The polymers we use are mostly hydrophilic, so they can take care of the solubility as well. That we will discuss in one of the case study. Dr. Rana, you have to tell me about the time, okay? I usually take 2-hour class, so I'll not stop. So drop on solid or zip dose technology. I'll just run the video. So Spreatum, as I said, it's the first FDA approved product for 3D printing by using 3D printing technology. So the binder comes and the solid bed just continuously make one layer. The binder comes, another layer, another one more time binder comes, third layer, and that's how it turns into a very porous tablet. So you can see this video. I hope it is streaming.
Zip dose technology.
Yes, visible, audible, sir.
Only drug formulating platform to utilize 3D printing. This proprietary technology allows disintegration in seconds with just a sip of liquid, taking the oral medication experience to a whole new dimension. Let's see how 3D printing takes shape. Medications are formed by a layering process. First, a powdered pharmaceutical blend is deposited on a single layer. Then, a binding fluid is precisely deposited to bind the powder blend and prepare it to adhere to the next layer. This process is repeated several times. The result is a solid yet highly porous oral dispersible medication. Zip dose technology enables high dose loading of up to 1,000 milligrams, a wide range of taste masking capabilities, and rapid disintegration in seconds with a sip of liquid. Let's take a closer look. When liquid is added or sipped, the bonds break apart, allowing thorough disintegration for ease of swallowing. Experience a zip dose demonstrator for yourself. Call Aprecia Pharmaceuticals to see if a representative is available in your area.
So stereolithography is kind of a method, but then I'll quickly go over it. It's not something really. It's very good for making toys. If you see over here, like making Eiffel Tower and all that, but then it's really not very feasible technology when it comes to pharmaceutical manufacturing. Though there are papers on that and everything, but then it use a photo initiator and it use a chemical which are not our conventional pharmaceutical grade polymers. We cannot use HPMC or Udragate or PVA, polyvinyl pyrrolate on here. You have to use a particular kind of resins which are liquid, and when you subject it to UV light, it hardens. So that's what the stereolithography. So I'll just quickly move forward with it. And at the end, we have to wash it with the isopropyl alcohol, which is again makes it's useless for our use. But again, for research purpose, it's fine. But it's down the line. It's not something that we are looking for. Selective laser sintering is something a viable technology. It is one of the fastest 3D printing. And as you can see in the image, that's how it's sintering means. It basically the original technology was developed for the metal, but some of our binder like PEG 4000 and something, they have they're used for hot melt granulation at higher temperature. So laser is high energy and it selectively melt the powder bed in a shape that it gives us a tablet. So there are lots of paper on that. You might want to read it. This is something feasible, but again, there are two ways. One is this binder technology. One more is again UV initiator or something. So for pharmaceutical purpose, I think with the use of thermal binder and to melt a particular shape is somewhere is useful to us. Inkjet 3D printers, one more technology where you have to use drug with the polymer ink. So this ink is exactly the same way the HP printer use, but in this one we use a biocompatible polymer for printing. And then once the object is printed, a UV light is subjected to the UV light procuring to make it hard material. So the powder layer and drop wise, it had photopolymer, so it does some cross-linking. So usually use PEG, diacrylate, or those kind of polymer, which are again not a very conventional pharmaceutical polymer we use, but that's how and we incorporate the drug into it. Lots of concern because you use UV initiator, those are more of a chemical than the polymer, which are not pharmaceutically acceptable, like FDA approved. So that's where there is a gray area how far this technology will move. Aprecia have used only drug to achieve a higher drug load. The current research, I'll go over it real quick over here on different area. That's a powder bed technology, the SLS 3D printing. FDM, the advantage is you can print different shape, different size and everything. A tablet with the channels in it, so the drug water can come in and out very easily to modulate the drug release, and a liquid solidification where the lithography technique is involved, where you can print a tablet, and those tablets are super hard as well. So you use some kind of resin which is not somewhere FDA approved material for drug delivery. Application of pharmaceuticals, like one size fits all. That's what our hypothesis so far, that we make acetaminophen or ibuprofen for, let's say, 400 milligram, 500 milligram. And so far, all the drugs available in the market are manufactured based on one thing, one size fits all, but that's not true. And as we are going more in detail into the proteomics or genomics, we are realizing there is a huge variation from human to human. Maybe the pharmacokinetic is same. That's how the bioequivalence studies and everything is done. But the effectiveness of the drug is far different from human to human. And that is based on the drug. Some drug do not work in some of the patient at all. But again, they are approved by FDA, so we are still keep on giving it to the patient, but some drug really doesn't work in the patient based on the genetic makeup. So rather than a generalized therapy, we need to choose some personalized therapy, and that's where we are moving forward. Half a dose of the drug is enough, more dose is given, different kind of formulation, the different drug, and that's where the 3D printing becomes more handy to develop a patient-centric or somewhere a customized dosage form. I will quickly go over some of the case studies where this is technology where under consideration, maybe they are developing for the commercialization as well. 3D printed star mix for the pediatric application, and they use the pharmaceutical grade material HPMCAS and indomethacin PEG 6000. They did the hot melt extrusion, they develop a filament, and they extruded it through, like after hot melt extrusion, they put it to the FDM 3D printer. So in case of ink, you put filament as a feed material, your nozzle will melt it down, and then it will print it like a liquid. And then at the room temperature, those polymers are nothing but a solid, and it will turn into a tablet. So these are the different shapes they have printed, and bitterness scale they have measured. You can read the paper for more detail. Indomethacin release from the different shape is nearly the same, but this is more to make it for the pediatric patient. We have our own study. We develop a formulation with the two different printing, and that's what I was discussing, that if we use hexagonal versus diamond print. So the drug here was hydrochlorothiazide printed with the polyvinyl alcohol and plasticizer sorbitol. But we see a huge difference in the way it prints. If you see the bridge here versus the way it prints, this is hexagonal, this is diamond. So the machine will print inside of the tablet, and within 60 minutes, hex cap H for hexagonal printed, it is completely almost soluble, while diamond, it is still there. So this is something you don't see with the compressed tablet. The composition is same, the polymer is same, the hardness are nearly the same. It is just the internal structure is different, and that's how the way they dissolve in the water, the time they take to solubilize in the water is very much different, and that's something different for this 3D printed caplets or tablet compared to the conventional compressed tablet. So here we incubated this tablet with in the crystal violet, and within almost 30 minutes or 15 minutes, we see the penetration of crystal violet within the structure. Like this is a hexagonal printed. The internal structure is hexagonal. Again, the composition and everything is same. The time of printing is same. The weight is nearly the same. And diamond, no permeation of the dye, and you zoom in and you can see there is crystal violet all over in the tablet. And in diamond, as the name indicate, the exterior is so hard, or exterior is constructed in a way that it does not let the drug permeation inside the tablet. So same composition, you can make immediate release and you can make extended release tablet. So this is the release profile. I'll just quickly go over it considering them. Second problem I think I mentioned in my abstract, the filament has to be of certain tensile strength. If it is above or below certain strength, then it's really not good. And it might break here if it is very brittle. So this is the gear that it push the filament. This is the printer. So this is how you push. This is your feed material, the drug and polymer here. You get it from hot melt extrusion. You pass it through the gear, and this is where you have a heating nozzle that is above the glass transition temperature of polymer, and it turns into a molten mass, and that's how it print on the base plate. And there are different papers and literature for that. There are some of the studies related to it. I'll just quickly go over it. So here, based on the kind of a drug, if it is too loose or if it is too brittle, it breaks into the printer itself, and you need some force to push this filament through the nozzle. And if it is too rubbery or too brittle, in both the case, it won't go through. So we one of our study, we use 3-point band test. We see the amount, how the amount of sorbitol make it in plastic. So here this is the distance and this is the force apply. So when you apply the force, how far it goes and how much force it's needed. So when you make this filament more and more elastic, it will go to the more distance and will require more force to break it. So somewhere this one found to be optimum. So we compare this data with the printing, and then we realize that you require certain force and certain distance with that filament to be easily printable. We printed a baclofen. Baclofen is a drug that's GABA mimetic agent, and we really needed a dosage form which does not release baclofen immediately, but it releases in a sustained manner in pediatric patient. Even Sun Pharma developed those kind of formulation with the baclofen. We developed this thing somewhere in 2017, and we did the whole study. And if you see, this is a panning like our 25 paisa size, and the tablet was extremely tiny. This kind of tablet is very hard to manufacture using even a mini tablet punch. With 3D printer, you can easily do that, and that's the advantage with the pediatric patient, especially. You can really print a very fine tablet with the high drug loading, which you cannot otherwise make it using a conventional or compressed tablet. And for pediatric patient, we really need very fine tablet. So this is it. Dr. Rana, how long do I have?
Yes, you continue, sir. No problem.
Sir,
You continue.
Okay, sure. I just don't want to stress the time. So this is the STM study. We do scanning electron microscopy study to understand the surface. Is there any drug precipitated on the surface, or what kind of surface it is? Just a conventional microscopy study to understand if there is any surface precipitation of the drug. In this paper, we move on with the hexagonal, shark fill, linear, diamond fast with different infill percent. Infill percent means how much you are putting inside the tablet, and infill pattern means in which pattern you are printing it, the interior of a tablet, and those have some effect on disintegration time. And then we quantified using statistical software that's is there any significant difference between printing pattern as well as those infill percent. So infill percent absolutely have some more effect in some of the polymer, but however, in case of PVA, sorbitol, which both are highly soluble matrix, we did not see a big difference in terms of infill percent. Infill pattern we see difference, plus most importantly with the size we see a huge difference. As you make it bigger, it gives you more sustained release. So sometimes you want to cut down the dose and increase the size of the tablet to control the drug release. So these are various angles that you can learn. Again, this field is at very nascent stage. We don't know how each polymer and each drug will behave with a different printing pattern. There are more than 25 printing patterns, the way the tablet of interior of the tablet can be made, and there are multiple ways. You can adjust the thickness of exterior, you can adjust the layer thickness of each layer of printing. So there are various way, and that's why you will see many paper. Each paper have a different objective of the study. And that's where I think all this thing is needed. And we did some factorial design for dimension versus infill. So we did not see the effect of density, infill density on the D50, but however on D85, time it required for 85% resolution, both of the factor had a significant impact. Bigger the dimension, more it was the D85, and same as the infill density. Now, if you have realized, and that's how even we realized that we were working on that, and then we saw the hardness. This is like a plastic. For 42 or hardness, which is close to 500 Newton, which is a 50 kg of hardness. Conventional tablet has a hardness of 3 to 5 kg. Correct? When the tablet of 50 hardness, so this is basically you have printed a plastic, a solid plastic mass, and trust me, if you shoot it on the floor, it will make a big noise because it's like a hard molten plastic mass, and that's the result. We thought this could have one more application. Now, if you make a conventional tablet with the 50 kg hardness, it will take 24 hours, but it won't dissolve at all. But a 3D printed tablet with the 50 kg hardness can dissolve within 30 minutes. So that's a huge difference. You see, you compress something at 50 kg hardness, a conventional tablet, no matter what you do, it won't be able to dissolve in the dissolution medium. But if you do the same thing with 3D printing, same polymer, it will dissolve within 30 minutes. But it won't break. And that's why we thought of developing an abuse deterrent formulation. I'll quickly go over it, those who are not familiar with the abuse deterrent formulation. So opioid epidemic is a big problem in United States and so as in many other countries, that the people, once they are on fentanyl or oxycodone or oxymorphone therapy, they become dependent on that, and as a result, once their surgery and everything is gone, some of those kids, like they are in the age of, let's say, 20 to 30, where they have some injury or due to some surgery, they are given opioids as a painkiller, but they become so much addicted to that. And some people, even without any surgery or anything, they become addicted to that, and it's a big problem, at least in USA, that people are literally misusing it. Despite very strict guideline to dispense it, to distribute it, people are heavily misusing it, and that is causing a problem for it to available to the right patient. When the guideline becomes so strict and number of pills are limited for the dispensing and everything, the patient who really need it is in big trouble. And that's a big market for this kind of technology, and FDA is really pushing for development of abuse deterrent technology, those pill, if we can. So how they do it, they take it, and oral route is the biggest route. They take so many pills together. They use like dextromethorphan or NyQuil. They just drink in ton. We have published one more paper if some of you are interested in loperamide. Sorry for my handwriting. Loperamide is one of the opioids from Cipla. It is a common drug called, I don't know why they give this name, but it sounds very familiar. Rocco, used for diarrhea, but then it has an opioid property. Basically, it's an opioid, but it's only used for diarrhea at the 2 milligram dose, and that we published a paper to prevent its multi-dose oral abuse. So what these people do is they take those opioid medicine, they crush it and they snort it and they inject it at the same time, and then that lead to significant toxicities and misuse and lots of emergencies and hospitalization. As I know, somewhere 70 or 80 billion is the health care burden on United States based on misuse of opioid. So with that, we thought this pill could be a solution, and we developed an egg-shaped tablet. So this tablet, we tried hitting with the hammer. This tablet wouldn't break and it will slip from the abuser's use. And that's what we read some of the blogs, that how they do abuse, and like me and my student, and then we figure out, okay, this could be a very good technology where 3D printing could be helpful. So we loaded the drug, we developed a filament, and we printed it into the egg-shaped tablet, which is not possible with the conventional compression machine. And we crushed using coffee grinder. The snorting, it did not turn into a powder. If you compress a tablet and when you break it down using coffee grinder or an analytical mill, it will turn into fine powder. But when you use a 3D printed tablet and when you use analytical mill, it won't break it down to the fine powder. These all powders are bigger than 500 microns. So to nasal snorting, the range is it shouldn't be below 500 micron for it to be in a snortable range. And extraction we check. So people of the FDA guidance says it should be less than 20% extraction within 5 minutes. You put the tablet in the water, it should not release the drug. So the abusers cannot extract the drug and inject into their vein. And we checked, the release was absolutely fine. So this is one of the technology we developed. The drug release profile with 5%, 10%, and when we reached 15%, we reach our goal of hitting 85% of drug release within 30 minutes to prove it as immediate release. So hard tablet, egg-shaped tablet with the shell of an egg, but interior is lightly printed so that it resists the crushing and everything. But when you put it in the water and dissolution medium, after 15 minutes, it will start releasing the drug. That's another thing possible with the 3D printing. The solvent extraction data we did. Currently, we are working on 3D printed capsules to load the thermoreversible self-emulsifying system. Some of the other studies, again, it's plastic, and some of the other researcher are using a channel. They can print a tablet with a channel inside of 1 mm channel to 0.2 mm channel, and to see how they get the variation in drug release. Very nice paper. I'm not sure they are going to, you have this video with you, so I think you can read those paper, and you can get more detailed understanding. Obviously each paper will take 1 hour to discuss, so I'll just quickly go over it. Yeah, with different channel, the more water get in and more better drug release you get it. Regulatory gaps, and this is where some of the questions we have. Drug content at assay. USP has a strict guideline, 90 to 110. But when you 3D print in a pharmacy, who will check that? Stability study, the shelf life of a filament versus shelf life of that product, how long it will stay. Because in industry, we do very tight regulatory, considering all the regulatory perspective and the FDA submission, and we follow USP or IP for all those study. But if you print it in a pharmacy, who will do all those study with the stability and everything? Reproducibility, printer are not somewhere very well certified for this thing. Some of the tablet we printed has a more than 10% weight variation, and who will calibrate those printer, and all those thing comes in between. USP specification for the final product 3D printed, not any guideline related to it. The bulk, who will do the bulk manufacturing, who will regulate it. The cartridge for inkjet printing with the drug loaded polymer with the photo initiator, who will regulate it, who will dispense it. So all this is a gray area, which is lots of things has to be done, lots of research has to be done in this area. So FDA is really pushing for it, and if you see, lots of publications are coming in. Futuristic, very recent paper, an amazing idea, I would say. A paper from, I think it's from Germany. They published for a tablet which braille printing. So especially for the visually impaired patient or blind patient, this could be a really helpful to with the dose adherence. So this is like somewhere innovative, and they did the caplet in different shape with the different printing pattern and drug release. Multi-compartment capsule, it releases one compartment which is thicker, another compartment which is less thicker or thinner compartment. It releases the drug in the pulse. So again, this is the advantage for pulsatile drug delivery system. We do very complex job, but when it comes to 3D printing, just by changing the printing thickness, you can release the drug in a pulse. So that's again one more advantage you can think of. That's how they showed you the capsule, how the cap and the bottom was printed. What next? Recently, in last year, they started with the 4D printing. Simply, this is like 3D movie, then 4D movie. From 4D movie, you see something coming up from the chair, or so its chair is vibrating or something. So this is on the similar line. 4D is a 3D, but with but it changed its form with some external force. So one of the paper we see is on the stomach environment based 4D printing, where in the stomach, because of the acidic pH, the polymer gets soluble and it changes the shape. So basically, this is the game of mostly shape memory form polymers, and then you will see lots of literature on that. So one of the paper, when they form a capsule with the HIV drug to retain the HIV drug for a week into the patient's body, they did this kind of 4D printing where external stimuli is needed, so the to unfold the tablet, and it stays afloat on the stomach itself. So I think as it's, the polymer is sensitive to some environment. So for us, Oh, this is as many application for us. It is mostly so far we have one publication with the in the stomach environment where the polymer gets soluble or unfold and take different shape. Shape memory polymer, that's what use ethyl vinyl acetate, polylactic acid, or cross-linked polymer, and based on their environment they will sense it and then they change their shape. Rigid material, this is a solid material, that's where we load the drug, and one hinge or supporting bridge we make it of that expandable or the sensitive material, and that will change the property. So it is still a 3D shape but with some sort of responding to the external stimuli. So with acknowledgement, I will thank to St. John's University for all the funding. My lab is funded with the NIH, and that's how it runs. This is my lab, graduate student. Currently, I have 5 PhD students in my lab. This is where Dr. Tejal Gandhi visited us in 2018 at our department. This is my APC days, Anand Pharmacy College, a wonderful class, and that's the only peak I could get with Dr. Gandhi at when I was in Anand Pharmacy College. Otherwise, it's really tough to even see her somewhere. So that was a lucky peak from 2007. So with that, I guess I will love to answer some of the question.
Ruby ma'am.
Thank you.
You want me to turn on the video now?
Thank you, sir, for the.
First, I will share the video, sir.
You want to share the video? You can go ahead, or you want me to? I can share the video.
Yes, you can, sir, please.
Yes, sure.
Not visible, sir.
I'm just sharing. Can you see it now?
No.
Yes.
Yes, coming, sir.
The feed material, permanent extrusion, structural analysis, pharmacy college. Full screen or it's? This is Dr. Ketan Patel.
Sir, full screen, no problem.
This video demonstrating fused deposition modeling 3D printer is a part of the faculty development program by Anand Pharmacy College. So today I am going to demonstrate the feed material, permanent extrusion, structural analyzer, and fused deposition modeling 3D printing. During my talk, I have already discussed about different types of 3D printing, SLA like SLS, inkjet 3D printing and all that, the advantage and disadvantage of 3D printing, their applicability into different industry, and the future perspective of the 3D printing. So that everything I will cover during my talk. 3D printing, I think, the use is very long for automobile, for toys, for architectural purpose, or medical device. The things which makes it different for pharmaceutical purpose is incorporation of a drug, because for them, any polymeric material or metal or anything is fine, which is 3D printable. For us, we have to find a way how we can incorporate a drug successfully, the purity, the other impurities generated while processing, the temperature, and other excipient compatibilities. There are lots of things comes in between while you incorporate the drug into the 3D printed fields, and that's the challenging part of the 3D printing. Scale up and everything maybe we will discuss during our talk. So let's discuss first. There are different feed materials as we go through the SLS or SLA.
Hello.
Hardik, sir, I think we are facing some problem with the video. It's lagging.
Yes. Ketan, sir.
The video isn't running smoothly.
Yes.
The voice is not coming. Now coming.
Now we can see. Oh, sorry. From here?
Yes, might be. Please don't mute your mic, sir.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah. 1.5 mm filament. So how do we get those filament and how do we incorporate the drug? So there are thousands of articles describing hot melt extrusion for enhancing the solubility, improving the drug release as well as making the sustained release doses form. So actually is well established technology. Now we can say almost we have some 5 to 6 commercial product based on hot melt extrusion. So this is process 11 by thermoscientific. That's what we have. So in here, I think this is a feeder where we put polymer, drug, plasticizer. There are different kinds of pharmaceutical grade polymer, and that's what is making it different from conventional 3D printing for all other purposes. For pharmaceutical purpose, you need to have an FDA approved excipient, and that's what we have to use in the limit of inactive ingredient. And so far, what we know is like HPMC, polyvinyl pyrrolidone, polyvinyl alcohol, the hydrogens, and that kind of polymer we usually use. The key is the miscibility of a drug. So when we do this processing, it is ideal that the drug is molecularly dispersed or it is in amorphized state within the polymer. So we can adjust some processing parameter like temperature or for different ones. There is about 7 zone, and then we can adjust the different temperature based on the kg of a polymer, melting point of a drug, and at the same time there are material attributes like the polymer and the drug chemistry and everything. The solubility parameter plays in between. So the first part of the FDM 3D printing, you should have a nice polymer, drug polymer mixture which are miscible and gives you a transparent, nearly transparent filament where your drug is evenly distributed or molecularly distributed. So with that processing, we get the filament of continuous. We get the filament of 1.5 mm. We cut into appropriate length. And this filament, based on the drug, this is the commonly loaded filament. So drug. So that's what we have now. And this is the first step. Then we get this filament of appropriate or desired attributes that can be printable using 3D printer. So we will move on to the next step. So this is the second part of fused deposition modeling 3D printing. It's advisable, not necessarily you must have it, but it's recommended. So what is recommended here, that the filament you get from hot melt extrusion is brittle, it's elastic, or what kind of property it has. So usually we check the tensile strength, Young modulus, elasticity, and everything, because we have to feed this drug-loaded polymeric filament to the feeder, or the gear should easily accept the filament and melt it and print it. And that's where we need a filament which you can print easily, reproducibly without blocking the printing gear. So this is the machine texture analyzer. That's where we measure this is a 3-point bend test setup where we break the filament and we check all the strength associated with it. And then we pull it to check the elasticity of it, and we measure the force or distance curve and everything. So this is kind of a filament where we can say it's brittle. When you just study it, you can break it without any effort. And this is the risky filament. If you put it into the FDM printing, it might break without printing. The material it might block the printing nozzle. On the other hand, this is like a shoelace. That's too rubbery. So this kind of filament, and if you, I'm not sure you can see it clearly, the drug has been, or a plasticizer has been precipitated out of the filament. The surface is so rough, and this is like a very flexible. This kind of filament as well is not something easily printable. So you can, like, let's say, narrow it down. So let's say you have 100 different combinations, or let's say 10-15 batches. You can definitely narrow it down by using this machine, that this is printable, this is not printable. This drug with this polymer, with this plasticizer may or may not work. And then, so if you have this, good. If you don't have it, then just put it into the machine, and anyways, it's not printable. The machine will tell you that it's breaking, and then it's more of a troubleshooting. But the worst part is if you block the nozzle, you have to buy the heating block again, and then you have to open the machine, then you have to feed everything. So the cleaning is time consuming, and that's where, if you have this, it will save some of the time, and you can see, okay, this is the strength. These are good for 3D printing, and you can save lots of time and as well as resources and material as well. So now we are moving forward with the FDM 3D printing. Let's do that here, okay? Yes. So the third part of this video and the most important part, FDM 3D printing. So before we do FDM 3D printing, when we have filament of different drug loading and you see the filaments are appropriate for the printing, we design a tablet. So compared to the conventional 2D printing that we print page and everything, 3D printing is nothing but layer by layer 2D printing, you can say in a simple language. So we make one layer, then another layer, and on top of that, once the whole object is printed, and this is a simple software just like our regular printer, just to give a print command and it will print a tablet. So but before that, a size, shape, the infill, how much dense infill print you want, the infill density, the percentage, how much percent you want to fill in that object, everything you have to set it up. And this is again not very difficult. There are lots of YouTube videos. So usually we use Tinkercad, but you can use Microsoft 3D Builder as well. There are many other online free software available where you design an object. You adjust the X, Y, Z axis. You give the command to the printer just like a conventional printer, and then this is a 3D printer that will print it. We have from MakerBot. There are different kinds of FDM 3D printer, different size, and they're available in different precision, and the cost vary from, let's say, $300, or maybe some of the 3D printer I saw in Amazon India, that's somewhere costing around 30,000 Indian rupees, so it goes up to lakhs. So that depends on what you want to print, how big object you want to print and everything, how much precision you want. But this is the 3D printer we have here. So once you design, it will export your object as a .stl file, and it depends on software and everything. There are different kinds of file version available, but we usually use .stl file. We feed it to the machine, and machine will, just like a regular 2D printer, it will print the object into 3D. Before I move forward, I would say I have hardly printed 10-15 tablets, and I have seen someone print it, but then my graduate student Siddhant will be more expert. He can open the machine and he can put it back. So I would recommend then Siddhant can talk about it, so he can give you a better idea how this 3D printer works. And it is really a very versatile technique where just by changing the infill pattern, just by changing the infill density, if you keep the composition same, you can vary the drug release. That's the biggest advantage. If you want to make immediate release versus sustained release, we know it, like with the conventional tablet, bilayer tablet and everything, modified release tablet, we have to change the composition. Over here, you can keep the filament composition same, just vary the printing pattern, just vary the infill density, and you can alter the release of a drug, and that's how you each equilibrium gives a more personalized therapy, and that gives power to the pharmacist, and that's more of a futuristic and the biggest advantage of 3D printer. So I'll call Siddhant, and he can explain you this, and we will show you one of the printing of one of the tablets.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Firstly, I will start with going over the hardware of the machine. So let's get to the basics. Firstly, I would like to show you this extruder assembly. So in every FDM 3D printer, there is an extruder block. If you see, this is actually from a dual nozzle FDM 3D printer. And as you see, there is a fan assembly, there is a guard, there is a spring, and in that spring, there is a gear within that spring, which then goes down into this stainless steel plate and a heated jacket and a nozzle. So how this thing basically works is, you take a filament, you put it into this opening, and then you press the spring. Down towards the Allen nut. If you see, there is a silver colored nut there. and as soon as it starts melting, this is where it will start melting the material. And this nozzle, it's 0.4 mm. So you can also put you get different nozzle sizes. They vary from 0.2 to 1 mm, which is an addition you can do to manipulate. Say you want an immediate release, then you can probably increase the nozzle size so that you get a thicker filament, increasing the surface area. And then the material would be deposited from this nozzle. Coming to the other two important parts, one being a spool. So basically, in commercial 3D printers, this is a pool of polylactic acid, which is a commercially available polymer, and this is the build plate. So this is the surface on which the material will deposit, and then you can collect it by scraping it or by just pulling it from the build plate. So as Dr. Patel mentioned, we work on fused deposition modeling 3D printing. This machine that we have here is a MakerBot Sketch, which is a 5th generation fused deposition modeling 3D printer, just launched in March of 2020. So now I am going to give you guys a demonstration of a preloaded tablet template that we have here. So as you guys can see, there is an interactive touchscreen on the side. So that interactive touchscreen, it shows the current temperature of the nozzle and the current temperature of the build plate with a rough estimated design of what is going to be printed. So now at this moment, the 3D printer is the nozzle is heating up and the printing will initiate. So as you see, the material is going to start printing now. The first step that the printer does is any residual material that it has within the extruder block, it will remove it. And it's a good sign for the the person who's printing too, that we are able to understand whether the material is flowing properly or not. Now, as you see, based on the principle of fused deposition modeling, the material is printing in a layer by layer fashion, and right now the infill pattern on this is diamond fast. Dr. Patel, I think, will go over it during his talk. And as you see, the layer height and the layer thickness is very uniform when it comes to FDM 3D printing. So on an average, a tablet or a caplet with a size of around 10 to 12 mm, length of 10 to 12 mm, would print approximately between 1 minute to 1 minute 30 seconds. And the end product is basically a deliverable, like an orally deliverable tablet.
As you can see, first make the edges, then provide infill based on what pattern you choose, and then it closes up. As you can see, we just printed one tablet. So this is a pretty tiny tablet you can see with 3D printer based on the weight of this tablet. So usually this size of tablet based on infill pattern and infill density, it weighs around 85 milligram to 100 milligram, which can cover the dose up to let's say 10 milligram of drug to 20 milligram of drug based on the drug loading. The limitations, as you already have seen, that it took us 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. So if you are refilling the prescription and you have multiple machines, it's possible. That's one of the limitations of 3D printing. We are not there yet. Like you have thousands of tablets in 1 hour with the conventional compression machine, which is not there with the FDM 3D printing. This is more of a personalized or customized or patient-centric tablet, where some patient need a prescription for 30 tablets, you print it right away and you hand it over. Something like that. So with that, I think we are done with the demonstration. For any question, write me an email, or anyways, I will discuss most of the part during my talk. So with that, thank you so much. Thank you for hearing me out.
Yes. Yes, Ketan sir, there are some questions from participants.
Sure, I'll be happy to answer.
And that is how to make 3D printed tablet with thermolabile drug.
For a thermolabile drug, FDM would not be a choice in any case, or you cannot use even SLA, SLS. So SLA, that's what people use, because in that case, stereolithography, there you don't need any temperature. It just photo-initiated polymer cross-linking. So that's what you can use, SLA kind of 3D printer. But again, they have their limitations with the FDA-approved excipient. So with FDM, you cannot, because FDM, you really need above 100 degree to print the tablet.
Sir, second question, is cleaning of this printer cartridge is possible? It will be required when using different printers by same printer?
Sorry?
Like cleaning is required for a different kind of drug. Suppose one batch, after the completion of one batch, if you want to go for the second batch, is there any cleaning required?
Yes, just like you pass the dummy filament. So what we do is, if one drug and after another drug, we pass a PLA filament, which is very inert material, or we can run the blank polymeric filament just to be safe side. So no interface HME. Otherwise, it's pretty clean. It completely wash the material out of the filament. Hello, Purvi ma'am.
Sir, can we make some medical devices using this 3D printing technique?
That's most important application. That's the most important application of the to print the medical device. Printing a pill, that's just a side track that we are doing, but that is the biggest application. The people are printing for acne. There is a recent article that's very interesting article where they scan it. They see the size of the nose, or in case of tooth or oral cavity, the jaw, and they scan the exact size. You give a command to the machine, and machine will print the exact shape and size of that person. So that's where they use it.
Fine. So at the last, thank you very much for delivering such a nice session and also showing the live video of that particular 3D printer. Basically, it is quite difficult for us to show this kind of video with the proper printing and everything. So thank you very much, sir. And the second thing, you are now in US, might be there is a midnight. So it is quite difficult.
4 AM. That's fine.
So, but you have delivered a session for us. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and also delivered such a nice session, sir. Thank you very much.
Very formal. For Anand Pharmacy College, I have to do that, right?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
fine. Bye-bye.